Hey guys, Marsegid here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today I wanted to talk a little bit about what we could potentially expect to see as the, I guess I don't want to call it the Part 2 LR, because we don't actually necessarily know that Android 21 Celebration is going to have a Part 2, or whether they're just going to have, you know, something they give its own like Christmas-based name, which is probably likely even if it does end up being part 2 of this, right? Because we're going to be getting the Timebreaker banner for Global that has the return of the 8-year LRs and will have full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku on it. We always get that banner around Christmas time, but we always get an LR banner, which thanks to the recent updates in the game over the last couple of years, we know will be a Carnival banner. Even if it doesn't have the release of a Carnival LR, it will be a Carnival banner, because if we take a look, this was last year. Obviously, we received the double rates Carnival banner for Fusion Zamasu. Now, Fusion Zamasu was obviously expected to drop in this sort of time slot, because last year the Tanabata main unit, the Vegeta and Trunks, dropped at the very end of November after Heroes in this time slot where 21 has released, and then Fusion Zamasu was their Part 2 LR, so it made perfect sense to go into this as the mid-December LR for Global with a double rates Carnival banner. So this is what we got last year. The year before this, we got the Goku and Hit, God Goku and Hit banner. This was also a double rates banner. So the Christmas LR banner has been pretty standard place in this time slot, right? This is the 14th of December. Zamasu was the 12th of December. So it's around that same time period, right? This was a Tuesday, Zamasu was a Monday. Now, the interesting thing that brings the speculation into this is the fact that the year before that was the banner where we got the Tech Super Saiyan 2 LR Gohan. And that was the 14th and was a Monday. So we've seen 2 Mondays and a Tuesday, 2 14ths and 2 the 12ths. So around that same period is where we basically know it's going to drop, right? If we look at the calendar right now, the 14th is the Thursday, Monday would be the 11th. So this, I would imagine, potentially, since we've seen it be a Tuesday and we've seen the 12th be the earliest, I could see this dropping on the 12th of December for Global. But obviously we will see, because it will technically be the same for both versions. In fact, if we take a look in the actual news in the game, we can always see what is going on with the 21 banner in terms of, because the dates for part 1 of the celebration, I suppose it's probably going to tie in with the login bonuses. Yeah, see, the login bonuses and stuff like that for the 21 celebration go up until the 13th, which is Wednesday at midnight. So in theory then, Thursday, which is the 14th, which fits the pattern, will be when this like Christmas banner type thing drops. So the reason why I wanted to bring up this kind of speculation, right, is that we have here a couple of years ago, both versions of the game did get the same release of this Christmas LR on a double rates banner. This was obviously very hype for Global players. I remember being definitely super excited to get this Gohan at the same time as JP and to summon for him. On release, he was very good. I also got very lucky on his banner, so obviously that helped as well. So there is the potential that we could see this, because I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, you know, what about Omega Shenron? That's kind of the main thing that we're expecting, right? Based on the expectations from last year, we got the Tanabata unit at the end of November, as I already said, and then the Part 2 LR for the Tanabata mid-December. Whereas this year, they changed the release schedule so that we got the LR Super Saiyan 4 Goku at the beginning of November, then we got Heroes, and now they've dropped a same time Dokkan Fest exclusive instead of dropping Omega or Trunks, the next Dokkan Fest exclusive that Global was waiting to get. So that does leave us in this sort of weird limbo where Omega Shenron has not released yet. And obviously when he came out on JP, he is on a double rates Carnival LR banner that had the return of Goku, the STR Carnival Goku. So, I mean, in terms of banner format and everything, this banner fits perfectly to be the banner that's going to drop on Global for mid-December. The only downside to this, of course, is the fact that, as most people are probably aware, Omega Shenron is not a hype release. In a vacuum, the card is not terrible. Like, he's actually kind of strong, but he's locked to being on GT bosses, which is arguably one of the worst teams in the game. being the best unit on a terrible team, where almost every other unit on the team is almost unrunnable in the current meta, does not bode very well for a unit in the game, unfortunately. So I feel like, you know, there's two options. Global either just pulls the trigger and goes, yep, there you go, this is the banner here, or this one on screen. Omega is your double rates Christmas banner for December, and just bite the bullet on the fact that maybe no one will summon on it. Or we get the release of whatever LR is going to be coming out on JP at the same time as well. Which obviously, considering we're now in a same time celebration for Android 21, that is probably the most hype option and probably the option that will generate the most income for Akatsuki, which is obviously, you know, the main driving thing you would assume behind how they should be planning these releases, is their goal is to make money. Because if they drop this banner, I mean, I don't even have to make the summon or skip. I mean, I probably would anyway, but without even making the summon or skip video, it would be an easy skip for everyone if they drop this Omega Shenron banner, especially if they drop it exactly like this, because due to the thing with the worldwide celebration where Global doesn't get the return of the Part 2 anniversary Carnival LRs, Global has already had Goku return. So, like, I only got one copy of him on his original banner, and I have him Rainbow, thanks to him returning due to the anniversary. So, this banner dropping, apart from getting Omega to make content, this banner has no reason for me to summon on whatsoever. And that's coming from me, as someone who summons to basically everyone. So, this banner would be an absolute dud to summon on. So, the big thing we're going to talk about is obviously, what if they drop the same LR for Global and JP at the same time? And I did have, we were talking about it on the podcast, so people had some very interesting ideas there. Someone said it in the chat, I'm pretty sure as well. Imagine if they just dropped the same banner on both versions, because on JP, we're not just talking about both of us getting the same LR. On JP, this banner for them for Christmas will be the banner where LR Omega Shenron returns for the first time, right? So he'll be featured on the banner, he'll be available to buy with Carnival coins. Imagine if they just dropped the exact same banner on Global, so it has the new LR that's coming out on JP as well, and then it just also has Omega Shenron, who would be new for Global, but it's just two new LRs on the same banner. Because realistically, if the new LR that we both would be getting is super hype, people would summon on that banner despite the fact that Omega's on it, right? Because they'd want to pull the new LR, and then if they pull Omega along the way, then it is what it is. So personally, I do think that would be the best option for global players, because if it is just Omega, skip, right? Whereas if it's a good LR, you can summon for a good LR, and potentially the global banner still has Omega on it. Or what I could consider is probably more likely, if they do drop the same LR for both, Global will just get like Goku featured, because in terms of standalone Carnival LRs, I think there's only Goku and Omega, right? Because all the other Carnival LRs came out as dual, like Dokkan, well, not Dokkan Fest, but dual festivals, right? So they kind of always return together. I mean, I guess they could put both. For Global, it'd be kind of interesting if they just put both the anniversary LRs on there, but that would imply to me very heavily that the 9th anniversary won't be synced, right? Because they'll be coming back then. But that's a whole other topic that could be a whole other video. So, what we want to get into now with the main part of the video here is, who could the LR be for part 2, based on what we know at the moment? Because obviously them dropping an Android 21, whilst it obviously does relate to the Fighters update with the rollback netcode and all that stuff, it does seem like a very just random, out of the blue release, right? It's not tied to anything going on in the game or anything else. It doesn't have relation to any of the other celebrations, although obviously you can argue coming off the back of the Heroes celebration, getting a crossover Dokkan Fest is pretty good, right? I've already made a video of the doing the Rose/21 like crossover team, which is quite fun. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of different options. Who could it be? Will it be related to the 21 celebration? Will it be something completely different? So I've got a few different ideas for characters that we could potentially see, and I want you guys to let me know down below in the comment section, what do you think, and who would you like to see in these for the potential part 2 LR. So straight away, one of the things that I've heard people talk about, which I think is probably one of the most unlikely, right, is the fact that we got a new human 21 who transforms into a new good Android 21, and we got a new evil 21. We did not get a new version of just the normal like Margin version of 21 that doesn't have like the evil part, right, with the cell absorbed. So I've seen a lot of people say it would be cool to get a new version of this 21 as the Part 2 LR, because obviously the STR one here, even with her EZA, is pretty outdated nowadays, pretty much unusable in like the hardest content in the game, right? But as much as I do love Android 21, I thought I'd mention this straight away just so we could kind of dismiss it early on, because I genuinely do not think we would be getting, you know, we got a new Dokkan Fest 21, a side banner unit 21, free-to-play 21 EZA. I don't think they're doing the Part 2 LR as Android 21 as well. But, I mean, it would be cool, but I don't see it happening, right? So, next up, an option that I thought would be kind of interesting is this Android 16. We're getting the LR Androids EZA, and obviously they exchange into Android 16. And the interesting thing now that we've seen his kit is that he's not really a slot 1 unit, right, when he transforms, because he goes from having, I think the calcs I saw, he gets so much defense on super, he goes from like 350k start of turn to like 1.1 million or something after he does a super attack. So he's not really a slot 1 unit, and the androids themselves, before they exchange, they're not really a slot 1 unit either, right? They're relying on dodge. They need to get at least 1 dodge in order to get a defensive buff. So imagine if the Part 2 LR was just a straight up LR Android 16, who was an absolute slot 1 god. Like, you take this guy and then just remove all the stuff about this unit that we hate. Like, give him guaranteed guard, none of this high chance to guard. Just give him a like butt ton of stats, and he doesn't even have to be a unit that does that much damage, right? And then we have the other androids and the potential exchange into 16 that can go next to him, or the 21. Like, so many units on her team just benefit from having a slot 1 unit, and her team doesn't have the best slot 1 units. And because he is a crossover character, whereas the normal Android 16s are not, then obviously he would be on 21's 200% leader skill. So I think that could be a very interesting option. And then also in terms of, because we're kind of following the crossover vein here, right? Even though 16 is an Android. So one of the things I mentioned on the podcast, which I thought would be quite interesting, if we're going to just tie it into crossover and doesn't really necessarily have anything to do with 21 or androids or fighters at all, really, is imagine if we got an LR Xeno Trunks. Now, I know Xenoverse has just been constantly updating over the years. I don't know if any major thing has happened recently, so it's not like they have a reason to tie into Xenoverse straight after doing a collab with fighters. But this guy, the physical AoE one, the Dabura, Demigra, and Toa, they all need their EZAs. Bringing out an LR of Xeno Trunks would be pretty cool. We just got the LR Sword of Hope Trunks in the Worldwide Celebration. And this guy is a differently named character who obviously could be a big buff to some of those teams. And obviously with the leader skills that the heroes units that we got this year have, this guy would fit under other 200% leader skills with the categories that he's on. So I honestly think an LR Xeno Trunks could actually be kind of hype. I mean, he probably would have to have like fully Dokkan original super attack animations, I guess, but he could definitely be very, very cool, because they don't, you know, they don't classify Xeno Trunks as a heroes unit, so he could easily be appearing in a celebration outside of heroes. I wonder if they would even go as far as to give him like Super Saiyan 3 as a transformation. That'd be awesome, but I don't know if they consider the Super Saiyan 3 Trunks only part as heroes, because of course this guy is from Xenoverse, and we got Super Saiyan 3 Bardock, Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta, Broly, because they're from other games, not heroes, right? So I thought that would be kind of cool. And then that made me think of one other guy who's a crossover character. Imagine if we got a new LR Super Saiyan Bardock, and then this guy got his EZA, because he's a crossover character, which I sometimes forget and only really remembered when I realized that he's on Rosé's 200% leader skill. So if we got an LR Super Saiyan Bardock, that would be kind of cool. And then they could throw this guy's EZA in there as well. So I think that would be very interesting. Now, obviously, if they're not going to do a crossover unit, one of the other options that could be very interesting is a margin power unit. So, yep, the meme is coming. Get ready, boys. But could it finally be his time? Could we get an LR Kid Buu? Because Kid Buu is on the 200% team for 21. And I did the 200% showcase for Super Buu yesterday. And one of the things I was talking about, or was it the day before by the time this goes up? Either way, it's up on the channel. Check it out if you want to see Super Buu on the 200% lead. But in that video, I say, like, unfortunately for him, he has a 200% leader now, but most of his link partners are getting to the point of being too outdated, right? So if we had an LR Kid Buu finally come to the game, That would be awesome because you'd be able to run them together. Obviously, this Kid Buu being an LR means he also has legendary power to share with the Super Buu as a link. So that would be very cool if he finally got his time in this celebration, because he does get the 200% lead from Android 21, so it can make a very interesting team. We also have, of course, we need a new standalone Buuhan, because we have the STR transforming Super Buu that can become Buuhan, and then we have the physical LR Buu tanks that can become Buuhan. He still needs his EZA desperately, which they could throw into this part of this celebration if the Part 2 LR is going to be a Martian Power character. But a standalone Buuhan would definitely be a great new addition to the game. Again, if they make him like a super good slot 1 unit, then it's beneficial for not only 21's team, but for some of these other Martian Power characters as well. So I think that would be very cool. And then, of course, one thing I realized as well, we don't even have a Dokkan Fest yet for the actual just Fat Buu. So Fat Buu getting a Part 2 LR could be interesting. I feel like he is a unit that is deserving of at least a Dokkan Fest exclusive, right? I mean, we have like the tech Fat Buu and Evil Buu with the exchange up to Super Buu, but it's not quite the same thing. So Fat Buu could definitely be an interesting option as well. And then, of course, last but not least, you know, we talked about 16 in kind of a crossover sense, but there is also the fact that the Part 2 LR could be androids related. So one of the ones I think would be interesting, despite him not being like a crazy hype character, although I know he does actually have his own niche fan base, maybe because of the trucker hat memes and stuff. But Android 13, I could see the LR just being a straight up like Fusion Android 13. And then obviously this guy could get his EZA. But Fusion Android 13, like you look at his links, he's got Android Assault, he's got Metamorphosis, he's got Big Bad Bosses, he's got Nightmare, Fear and Faith, Fierce Battle. So like even outside of 21's team, he has a good link set with extreme characters. So him as a Part 2 LR could definitely be very interesting. And then obviously throw this guy's EZA. He's a support unit. So this guy getting his EZA along with the physical androids EZA that we're getting tomorrow. Then we've got the new Part 2 LR Super Android 13 all on 21's team. Like that would be super good, right? I think that could work very, very well. Then also we have shout out to Minato. He mentioned on the podcast, imagine if we got a new LR Cell. And I brought this one up specifically because this is perfect Cell, whereas the int LR Cell that we have already is the Cell brackets perfect form. So if this guy came out as perfect Cell and was, again, like any of these Part 2 units, if they're going to be on 21's team, or even if they're not really, ideally they need to be super good slot 1 units. But if this guy came out and was a super good slot 1 unit as the Part 2 LR, int LR Cell could see a resurgence because he's still pretty good, but you obviously don't want to put him in slot 1, so you put him next to this guy. Be super good on 21's team. He has a pretty decent link set anyway, right? I mean, he has stuff like Messenger from the future, but he has Big Bad Bosses, Nightmare, Shocking Speed. Like, he'd be good on some of these other teams as well. So a perfect Cell could definitely be very, very good. And then lastly, I thought about the fact that, you know, 21 does now kind of have indirect ties to Superhero when you think about the fact that they basically confirm in Superhero that you know, Dr. Gero's wife existed and looks like what we know 21 to look like. They obviously don't confirm in that little bit of backstory in Superhero that she was turned into an android, but we have, like, she's now canon to the anime, right, that she exists because of Superhero. So because of that, we could even see, although I feel like this would be more tied to like a Superhero celebration. Obviously, they don't have a card of them together yet, but imagine if the Part 2 LR, or the Christmas LR, whatever we want to call it, is Gamma 1 and 2, and then they have an active skill with the Core Breaker, which is the Gamma 2, like, sacrifice attack, and then they do that big attack, and then the unit becomes, like, just Gamma 1, right, because it's a big sacrifice attack for Gamma 2. I think that would be really cool as well. I guess the only problem is with them, they wouldn't be on the 21's 200% leader skill, but I mean, they'd still be on a lot of solid teams, and I think that's a unit that a lot of people would really like to see. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Those are just a handful of the ideas that I pulled off the top of my head to put into the video here. So let me know what your thoughts are. Are we going to just get Omega? And would you be excited for that, or would it be an easy skip? Or do you think we will be getting the same LR as JP? Who do you think it would be? Do you think they would just put Omega on that banner for global? Whole load of questions, because the thing is, we know the sync is coming at some point in the future. So if they're dropping this LR on JP anyway, one of the best things for them is, rather than dropping a banner that barely anyone's going to summon on, drop the LR the same as JP, just throw Omega on it, and then we're one step closer to the games being synced up, right? So that's what I think they should do. But obviously, we will have to wait and see. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.